Hey everybody, it's Joe, the 3D printing professor, and I was just getting ready for work when a friend of mine presented a problem that I thought, that would be easy to solve in Blender. But once I dove into it, I realized it wasn't actually that easy, and it required just a little bit more processing to get right. So that makes it a perfect example to work with to teach people how to do things. So that's what we're going to do today. And this is a common problem that you might run into in other circumstances. So it's good to go over this. So let's jump into it. Here's the problem. My friend has this 3D model that he bought from somebody, commissioned somebody to make actually. And when he prepared it for 3D printing, brought it into a slicer and sliced it up, it had some problems. You see, the ear isn't really attached. It looks fine over here, but once we slice it, it's like it's literally falling apart. There's holes. There's a hole through the head, and if we drill down into it, there's no infill. There's no what's going on. And then if we go all the way to the bottom, it becomes kind of obvious. Do you see those holes in the feet? Those are drain holes, and this 3D model was pre-prepared for resin 3D printing. Now, resin 3D printing, you can, sometimes you don't want to print something fully solid, and so you'll want to hollow it out and have some drain so that the liquid on the inside can drain out. The problem with pre-preparing your 3D model with a solid wall layer and a drain hole is that you limit your 3D model to that particular printing process. And not just that particular printing process, but that particular scale. If you try to make that model any smaller, those walls become so thin that we get the problem that we saw. I feel the same way about adding supports and baking those supports into the original model. If you're going to do that, that's fine. Although most modern slicers will calculate wall thickness and they'll calculate supports for you. And so I don't think that there's really any good reason to do this. Although, resin 3D printing aficionados will say, no, we can do a better job by hand. And okay, I do believe that. But if you're going to do that, make sure that you are distributing the unmodified STL or model file and the modified file together. They should never get separated, because if they do, then that modified file gets into the hands of somebody who all of a sudden can't use it. And that's the situation that we're in today. So let's jump into Blender and see if we can figure out how to fix this. All right, so I've got the model imported into Blender, and it's set up so that the Z is going that direction instead of, but we can see the drain holes on the feet. So this is actually a good angle to work with it. But I've prepared over here this is the ideal example of what we might be working with. And the way to fix this, you can see it's a hollow object. If I go into wireframe mode, it's got a shell on the outside, and it's all nice, even thickness shell, but it's got a drain hole at the bottom. So here's how we do this in Blender in the ideal situation. Go into edit mode, and I'm going to really quickly triangulate it, because when you import a model, it's not going to be faces, it's going to be triangles, which means that so what we want to do is we want to separate the outside and the inside, as we want to break them apart somewhere. So we want to find some part that we can delete to do that. And ideally, this hole would be the perfect place to do that. But if I were to go to face select mode and alt select one of these faces, it's not going to select the whole loop because it's triangle. So we're going to have to be clever about this. I'm instead going to go to edge select mode, and in wireframe mode, I'm just going to select this edge here. Now you might notice that I've selected the outside here, but I don't want to delete that part. Watch this. I hit Control plus, and I've expanded the selection into the outside and into the inside. The inside is the part that we want, so I'm going to use circle select, scale that up, and deselect all the points on the outside so that we are only selecting those parts on the inside. Delete those faces, and now we have the outside and the inside separated. And one thing that we can do is hit P to separate by loose parts. We see we have a second sphere here, so we've got the sphere on the outside now and the sphere on the inside, which is red because I've set up my Blender to show reverse normals as a bright red. That's just the way it works. I'm going to delete that, Go back to my sphere object here. Now we got a big hole that we got to clear up, but that's super easy. Just Alt select one of these edges, hit F to create a new face, and we're done. We can export that mesh and print it. Ideally, that's the way it should work, but let's jump back over to our model here and see how it goes. All right, so to begin with, let's go into edit mode. Let's find a point of attack. These feet look pretty good. Nice big flat object. So I'm going to go to face select mode and just circle select these faces because they're nice and big. Now, I notice as I'm doing this loop around that Blender isn't quite selecting the faces right under the toe here. And I can maybe do that, but I'm concerned that there's close-knit geometry that's too close for me to spot. And so I'm going to do a little trick. First of all, I'm going to go to vertex select mode from face select mode. Sometimes if it doesn't select the face between two faces, but it selects all the edges of them, switching to vertex select mode will automatically select that face. But I'm going to do even more. I'm going to hit Control plus to expand the selection. I'm going to do it one more time. And then I'm going to hit Control minus twice to decrease the selection. That way, any island selections get selected, but then when they get when we shrink the selection, well, it's only going to shrink from the edges, and that's no longer an edge. It's a part of the body, so we're good. I'm pretty sure we got everything. I'm going to hit X to delete those faces, and I'm just going to inspect it really fast. Like I say, I saw there was a problem, so if there's any lines connecting that, then it might cause a problem, but I think we got it. So now we go P, select or separate by loose parts, and nothing happened. Okay, we need to find out where else this model is touching, the inside is touching the outside. Now, again, I don't see anything here. I don't see any loose geometry that I didn't manage to delete there. But here's a quick way to find out. I'm going to Alt select the edge of what we did here in vertex select mode, and I'm going to Alt select this one as well. And then I'm going to hit Control plus to expand the selection. Okay, good. Whoops. This one wasn't selected, so we're going to do that again. Alt select that edge and Shift Alt select this time. Do it right, Joe. There we go. Control plus. If I had missed any selection, then these vertices around the edge of the feet would have been selected as the expand selection would have traveled out to that. It didn't, so I did my job good, but it's still stuck somewhere. So I'm just going to keep Control plus expanding, 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 and the whole time I'm going to be looking out at the outside and seeing if I can find where it brushes over. Now, it looks to me like it's starting to peak up, but if I zoom in, it goes away. That's because at certain distances, Blender is like, oh, well, we can use X-ray mode here and see through it. So make sure to zoom in whenever you see something like that. Oh, is it going? No. If it were, it would be expanding out across that as I did that. So let's keep going. Wow, that is really, really thin and close. That's not a good hollowing job. It should be solid. It should be, the same all the way across. I'm starting to think that whoever did this didn't do a very good job. This side's looking fine. We're still selecting over here. Yeah. Okay. Control plus. Control plus. It's just so close. But wait. Oh, that one. That is definitely selecting on the outside. Now let's hit Control plus again. Yes. We have definitely broke through to the, and look, we've done it on the other side too. Somewhere here, this model is breaching right here. And I don't know why. I suspect it's because whoever did the solidifying, whoever did the hollowing of this, didn't do a very good job of it. I mean, it's blotchy. It's not even thickness all over the place. It's just send people the original STLs. Don't try preparing stuff ahead of time. Let their slicer do the job. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to hit Control minus and Control minus until we are not selecting anything on the outside. And then I'm just going to delete these vertices. We don't need them. There we go. They're gone. Now looking at this, I'm seeing something here. There is a little, what in the world? You know what? It's not mine to judge. The job here is to to unhollow this model. So we see the inside here. I'm just going to hover over any of these points and hit L to select everything linked to it. And I think none of those are on the outside, but they are very, very close. I'm just going to go ahead, instead of separating it out like I did before, I'm just going to delete those points. Goodbye. And I think we got it. But we do have the holes in the feet, so we need to fix those. Alt select the edge here. It may take me a time or two to get the aim right. What is going on? Bloop. There we go. Hit F to create a face. Alt select F to create a face. That was much easier. And I'm going to take this model and stand him up a little bit. There we go. I think that's ready to go. Now, there are obviously some more things that I would do to this model, but as far as unhollowing it goes, we did that job. So let's bring it into the slicer and see how it looks. Oh, make sure we got to file, export, and make sure you select selection only when you do that. Either that or I'll delete the floor. We don't need, now we can just export everything. It doesn't matter, but let's get this exported and let's bring it into the slicer. Here it is, ready to go in the slicer. We've got the original hollowed one on the left and the unhollowed one on the right, and we can already tell that the unhollowed one is looking much better. We will need to put supports on it, but it's looking much better. And if I scrub down, we can see it's all full of infill. Everything goes to the edge. Yeah, look at that. On the original one, the eyes are thicker, but the head is thinner. Sometimes it's just best to leave people to do their own thing, to do their own hollowing and preparing it for 3D printing. But overall, let's take a look at that first layer. All right, that looks pretty good, going up a couple layers. I might suggest dropping this model below the build plate just a little bit so that we get, I'm wondering why it did that and not over there, but that's all right. It's looking good. Yeah, drop it below the build plate, maybe 0.5 millimeter, just so that we cut that off so that we don't get that high overhang on those parts. But even then, it's not going to be a big deal. Turn on supports, and this little model will be ready to print in any 3D printing process, and it's good to go. So I'm going to call this a success, and I hope that this has helped somebody who might be in a similar situation to understand how to fix this problem with Blender. And I want to encourage you to just go out and do awesome things. Make something great today. And remember, you are a child of God, so you're special to me. So take care of yourself, and if you can, someone else too. I'll see you next time.